It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett here with you on this Wednesday. Glad you're making us a part of your day. Plenty to get to here on the show. We'll hear from Robbie Weinstein, 247 Sports. We'll talk some college football with him as spring practice starts today for Vandy. New coach there in Clark Lee. We'll get his thoughts on that. Also, a pro day at the University of Georgia Day. Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI.com will join us. Look at some of the good performances, maybe some of the disappointing performances there in Athens with Brooks coming up in hour number 2. Also, Jake Mastriani, Tomahawk Take, will join us as we are just outside of 2 weeks to go now until opening day in Major League Baseball. So he will join us coming up in the final hour of the program. But we mentioned Pro Day there in Athens. BJ, some good signs that we'll get to in just a minute. Speaking of Pro Day, pro signings and trades and all that going on with free agency. Alex Mack leaving the Falcons, going to San Francisco. So some questions to be answered there for the Falcons now on the offensive line. That was kind of the one big thing for the Falcons here over the last couple of weeks. When you have no money or cap space, you really aren't that busy when it comes to free agency early on.
Yeah, it's been a very busy couple of days intro into free agency, but certain teams have the ability to be active, to be engaged, to spend a lot of money. Other teams are trying to do all they can to get under the cap, and the Falcons are a team that right now doesn't have many options. But it's been pretty amazing to follow all this. Kev, looks like AJ Green going to the Cardinals. You talk about a star-studded team that's taken shape out there. You think about what New England has done with the tight ends, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. You think about some of the big deals that have been signed for some of the linemen. A lot of money going to guys who play at the line of scrimmage. I think Jacksonville, if they sort of underwhelmed in terms of the headlines early on, I think the Jaguars getting Marvin Jones, getting Tyson Alualu, getting Griffin at corner. I think the Jaguars have been pretty active, pretty busy, and have solidified some areas of concern with some of their moves. So this has been its own kind of roller coaster to follow with some of the big deals, some of the guys that didn't sign right away, and some of the ebb and flow that always follows free agency. But for some of the concerns about will guys be able to get big deals? I think for the most part, you've seen shorter deals. You've seen 2 and 3 year deals. I think, Ben has talked favorably about the 3-year deal, how that allows you to maximize potentially guaranteed money, but also gives you some flexibility if you want a second or third contract, in that it's not a 7 or 8 year deal that ties you down. So yeah, free agency is constantly fascinating. Yeah,
the Jags, as you said, have been very busy here in free agency. Shaq Griffin, 3-year deal. Rayshon Jenkins, 4-year deal, $35 million. Tyson Alualu back with the Jags, 2-year deal. Marvin Jones comes in as wide receiver. Trade with the Saints for Malcolm Brown. So they've been very busy here trying to rebuild their roster. I know Urban Meyer said, hey, I want some speed on the offensive side of the ball. So going out and getting Marvin Jones and some guys like that. So trying to build a veteran roster, I would imagine, as best they can for what we all believe to be Trevor Lawrence, unless something wild happens and Zach Wilson jumps everybody and takes the number 1 spot. But
no, that's not going to happen. But yeah, Jacksonville's going to have a young team. I mean, you already have, when you look at the core of the roster, right? You think about DJ Shark, you think about CJ Henderson, you think about James Robinson, Laviska Shenault, Jawan Taylor, Cam Robinson, Josh Allen, Calebon Chason, up and down the whole roster. This is a team led by guys that are 23, 24, 25 years old, and you're going to add 10, 11 rookies via the draft alone, much less rookie free agency. So this is going to be a young team. So when you bring in guys like a Tyson Alualu, I think you value their play, but you clearly value their leadership. And Alualu, a guy coming back to Jacksonville from Pittsburgh, who was a high draft pick of Jacksonville, knows the franchise well, knows the culture, as he had some success winning with Jacksonville. But I really like the Marvin Jones deal, because you're right. Trevor Lawrence is going to be the guy. That's the guy you're building around. You're looking at him as a 10, 15 year, hopefully, fingers crossed, a leader, centerpiece for your organization. And you got to have playmakers. And I think you love what you have at running back with Robinson. I think you feel great about your 1-2 out wide on the perimeter, Kevin, with DJ Shark and Laviska Shenault, who you got last year in the draft. And then you look at Marvin Jones as a guy that has some flexibility, some versatility, can play on the outside, can play in the slot, has been incredibly productive, is a veteran wide receiver, is a guy that gives you some speed, some playmaking ability in space. And he's a little bit different, I think, than Shark and Shenault. You know, Shark's more of a long strider, kind of that deep threat, that downfield threat. Shenault maybe in that Anquan Bolden mold, a guy that just bodies receivers. And I think you can get a little of that shake and bake with Marvin Jones. So Jacksonville adding another playmaker, and that's something they needed.
Certainly. And again, Jacksonville doing their part again. We see the Falcons kind of restrained by money, not really doing much of anything. Alex Mack going to San Francisco. The other big ones today, BJ, Tyrod Taylor going to Houston, which many believe might be the precursor towards Deshaun Watson going elsewhere, or potentially just another plan if they think Deshaun Watson's going to hold out. They have their quarterback. So that's a very interesting situation there, Houston, to see how it plays out there with the Texans.
Well, and Tyrod Taylor is a very good player. People forget a couple of years ago, we saw him in the playoffs against Jacksonville. Tyrod Taylor took the Bills to the playoffs before Josh Allen did. So this is a guy that knows how to win, smart player, veteran, playmaker in the purest sense. I really enjoyed watching him during his college career at Virginia Tech in the ACC. So I think he's a guy that can play. You know, you've seen some of these veteran quarterbacks make the rounds, and some of these guys get paid. I know Ryan Fitzpatrick is with Washington now. He got a pretty good deal. Jacoby Brissett down in Miami, and now you think about Tyrod Taylor. So these veteran quarterbacks, even if they're not quote unquote franchise quarterbacks at this point in their careers, absolutely still have value.
Certainly. And again, some other quick news while we're here in the open. AJ Green moving on to the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals. So they're trying to beef up their offense out there in Arizona. They get AJ Green, who has been a great receiver, if not a great receiver with a bad franchise for much of his career.
And has had some injuries. AJ Green, superstar at Georgia, superstar in the NFL, has not been at his absolute best in recent years. But I think you're talking about, I mean, look at this Arizona roster. Look at what the Cardinals have done in free agency. And if you're Arizona, you get a guy who, you think about AJ Green, and I guess in the state of Georgia, just because he's been a first name star for so long, you think about him like he's in his late 30s. No, he's still got, if he's healthy, he's still got good years of football left. And I think if you're Arizona, you sign him to a modest financial deal, you get him for a year, that's a win-win. I think he'll be motivated. I think he'll clearly, I would be eager to play for a contender when you think about what Arizona's done, and with Kyler Murray and then adding JJ Watt to the superstars they already have. I think that's an exciting opportunity for AJ Green. I think that's one that could kind of revitalize his career potentially. Put him back in the spotlight. And I know he's been kind of off the national radar for a couple of years, but for a guy who was just as good as it gets at the University of Georgia, I'm really excited about this opportunity for AJ Green.
Yeah, go to a place where they should be very, very positioned to go out there and try to win right away. We've got so much to get to here on the show. Of course, it is St. Patrick's Day. Neither BJ or I bothering to wear green today. So, well, I know you don't care about those things. I obviously I don't either, but that's one of those things. I'm just glad I'm in a studio of like 3 people. So you don't get those folks that are like, this is where social distancing come into play. Is like, ooh, you're not wearing green, I'm going to pinch you. Nope. No, you're not. Stay away.
Okay. So of Christian,
wag them today. Like, nope. Don't touch me.
Of Christian, PJ, Cody, is anybody up there wearing green?
Kind of. No, look at Christian back here. Stand up. He says that's green. I mean guess.
Yeah, that looks like green to me. Yeah.
Green fell in mud. I mean,
it's not the traditional
on there. I'm sure it's probably like pewter.
It's not the bright green. It's not the just light up the room green. But it's green.
I guess he won't app his own clothes. He'll do it to me to find out if it's periwinkle or not. But now he won't app his own clothes. That's fine.
Yeah, today you're wearing apple red today.
It's good. He's wearing kind of a pewter, and Cody with a gray shirt. You're wearing a Brave shirt, so no green here today. It's St. Patrick's Day. We've got more to come. We'll name that team. If Christian won't name that shirt, we'll name that team when we return. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin and BJ, glad you are with us here on the show. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. You can also see us live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We are live audio streaming, ESPNcoastal.com, and of course, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Don't forget our ESPN Coastal Bracket Challenge still going on, brought to you by Low Country Honda dealers. Go get signed up, drop your bracket in there, play against us. And again, the best bracket there going to win a 55-inch flat screen TV. Second place going to be a Budweiser grill. So get those brackets in. You still have a little bit of time. I don't believe it officially begins until Friday at noon after the play-in games are over. But get your brackets submitted, and you could win a great prize. Go to ESPN.com and look us up, ESPN Coastal Challenge. Put your bracket in, or go to our social media. You can find some links to go straight to our bracket, get yours entered, and play along with us. Should be a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of hand-wringing, depending on how many buzzer beaters we have. But good to note, BJ, that the NCAA say, hey, all the 68 teams that are around, good to go, and we're going to get March Madness.
Yeah, that is good news. And as you fill out your brackets, I say brackets plural because I know a lot of people do that. And I'm asking you, this year I'm going straight team one bracket. I did one. It's on my desk. I didn't erase anything. I just went. Now, I don't feel good about it. I mean, trust me, I don't feel good about it. But I went straight team one bracket this year. Did you do multiple brackets, or are you planning on, here's my office bracket, here's my home bracket, here's my for fun bracket, here's my official bracket?
I am team one bracket guy. So fill out one bracket and let it stand in the ESPN Coastal Challenge. And, you know, let's see who stands out at the top. All said, all good and done. I'm obliged to tell you that Major League Baseball starting in a couple of weeks here as well. Braves will be back 2 weeks from tomorrow with opening day. Can't wait for that to get here. And we're starting to get some preseason predictions put out there as well. Jeff Passan putting out his preseason predictions. There's some interesting ones out there as well, BJ. He's got the Braves as his prediction to win the National League East, but has Juan Soto of the Nationals as the National League MVP. And I believe we're looking at potential Triple Crown winner. If he does all that and is the MVP and the Nationals don't win the East, I mean, good for the Braves, right? If they can hold off the National, I think if Juan Soto does that, I mean, if you were to tell me that on the Braves front, like, hey, Ronald Acuna is going to be the National League MVP. He's going to lead the National League in average home run and RBIs, but the Braves aren't going to win the East. I would be looking at you going, wait a minute. Like, what happened to the rest of them that they just fell off like that? I think the Nationals have a good squad. They'll be right there with the Braves.
I feel very comfortable that if Juan Soto hits for the Triple Crown, the Nationals will not only probably win the division, but win the World Series. I mean, look, that's spectacular if you can tie all that together. But Soto's great. The Nats have a really good rotation. You and I got into it a little bit last week. I think they're a bit overrated. I think this group peaked a couple of years ago, the National starting rotation, and I think the Braves are starting to peak now. But look, Jeff Passan knows baseball. You're talking about another analyst, another pundit that has the Braves winning the division. And I think that's validating when you think about where Atlanta is, because it's natural, right? When you're the defending champs, to know that everybody's coming for you, and you look around and you see the Nats still have, as mentioned, a very good rotation. You see that the Mets have spent a ton of money. Obviously, over the last couple of years, the Phillies have spent a ton of money. So maybe if you're a Braves fan, the expenditure is a little more modest, and you look around and go, are these teams going to overtake us? I mean, Kevin, just about every national pundit or leading kind of baseball analyst that I've seen has picked the Braves to win the division.
Yeah, and he's got the Braves there as well. And again, I know some of the computer models say that wasn't necessarily the case, but I'm not worried about that. I think if you look at this team top to bottom, knowing you're going to get a healthy Mike Soroka back at some point, I feel like this Braves is the team to beat in the East. Now, that being said, he's got Jeff Passan does the Dodgers as his favorite to win the World Series. And I think if you're, being objective about it, they're still the team to beat. They're still the team to chase. I mean, the Braves have a solid squad. Padres went out and bolstered their squad. Even the Dodgers, who won the World Series, have gone out, BJ, and bolstered their squad, bringing in Trevor Bauer. And they may have, and that's probably why they're projected to win the World Series, the best pitching staff in all of baseball assembled there out on the West Coast.
I mean, not only that, I think it's the best pitching staff we've seen in some time. I don't want to, it's a little early in the season, given that we're still in spring training, to start throwing out this is the best rotation since talk. I know you don't like stuff like that, but man, on paper, the Dodgers are just absolutely nasty with this starting rotation. Now, I think Atlanta, outside of what you have in LA, is as good as anybody. When you talk about a healthy Soroka, when you talk about Fried, who in my mind already is an ace, let's not forget the Braves brought in Charlie Morton, and that's a guy that's been really good. And then you throw in maybe an Ian Anderson and a Drew Smiley, and that's not even talking about the depth you have, as I think the last couple of years in Major League Baseball have shown us that you don't need 5 starters. You need probably 7 to 8 starters with just the way that injuries go, and guys are going to miss starts. That's the way it happens, and you're going to deal with that right out of the gate with Mike Soroka. So I think the Braves have not only quality front end of the rotation guys, but quality depth. I mean, there are players like Bryce Wilson and Kyle Wright who pitched in the postseason. Both those guys did, who, if everybody's healthy, they're not in the starting 5. They're not in the rotation. Those are guys that are kind of auxiliary pieces that can help you augment your rotation, and that's really impressive. But I think the NL East is going to be good. I even respect what the Marlins have done in terms of building their pitching rotation up, but I do think on paper the Braves are the favorite, and if you can avoid the big injury and you don't have a dramatic season that's a statistical regression from somebody like Freddie or Ronald and Ozuna, we don't anticipate that. I think the Braves are going to be good to go.
Certainly. And then this is another interesting stat here. The over-under for Braves wins 91.5. He took the over there with Atlanta. So you're talking about a 92-plus win team. I think much more than that would be very difficult, because I think the division is going to be very, very competitively balanced, if you will. I don't see a team just running away and winning this division by 8, 9, 10, 11 games. I think somebody is going to be the Braves, and somebody, and usually when you have a division that's got 3, 4, even the Marlins can push you a little bit. I think you're going to see a tight race coming into September for that division. I think if you start talking about, 95, 96 wins for that team, you better be playing in a division that's not very good, and you can really feast on your division. I think the National League East, it's going to be tough to say, hey, we're going to go, 16 times against everybody in here. We're going to win 13 of them. That's probably not going to happen.
And I know the win totals kind of metric is more for the bettors or the advanced analytics people. I mean, to me, the only number I'm worried about is 1. Are you 1 game ahead of the Nats or the Mets or whoever it is? I don't think it'll be the Phillies. Are you 1 game ahead of the Nats in the standings? That's all I'm worried about. If it's 95 games, if it's 92 games, if it's 89 wins, I mean, whatever. You win your division, you're going to be hosting, you're going to be at home, you're going to be avoiding the play-in games. So you're probably right. I think this is a competitive top-to-bottom division, and the starting pitching you're going to face, I mean, assuming the Mets can stay healthy, it seems like every year whoever they get just suffers horrific injury luck.
I mean,
but you're talking about, I mean, Scherzer out there. You're talking about Strasburg. You're talking about Corbin trying to bounce back. You're looking at not only DeGrom, but even if Syndergaard's out, Carlos Carrasco and potentially Marcus Stroman, assuming he's healthy. A Sixto Sanchez for Miami, and if you're one of those other teams, you got to deal with Fried and Morton and Soroka, and again, we'll see what happens with guys like Syndergaard, Lester. So in terms of the starting pitching, you have some incredible resumes set to perform here coming up in the National League East.
Yeah, going to be a lot of fun there. One more to get to here with Jeff Pastner in terms of his predictions. Freddy Freeman has the over-under set at 171.5. He took the over in terms of hits for Freddy Freeman. He was on a 197 hit pace last year in 2020, albeit a 60-game sample size. I think you dial that back for playing every day and adding another 100 games out there. Seems reasonable, and I think if he gets close to that 190 range again, you're talking probably Freddie Freeman in another MVP discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go over. I normally don't think about hitting stats in kind of total macro form. I think about the average when it comes to hits, now home runs and RBI. But I think just as hot as Freddie's been, seems to be happy, seems to be confident, seems to have kind of overcome some of the nagging injuries he's dealt with in the past. When you look at Marcelo Zuna back to provide protection for him, going to have Ronald on in front of you, I think there are going to be big time opportunities, and you can't pitch around him. You can't pitch around him with the way this lineup is. So you kind of got to deal with it. With Marcelo Zuna, who led the league in home runs and RBI a year ago, I think Freddie's going to have another big year. I'll go over. Yeah, I'm with him.
I think certainly if he plays every day the way he was playing last year, he's going to go way over. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out on this Wednesday afternoon. Certainly St. Patrick's Day edition of Take 3 coming up for you. We'll talk a lot of college football in hour number 2 with Robbie Weinstein of 247 Sports and Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI.com, as Georgia had their pro day a little bit earlier today. So we'll discuss some of the things that went down there in Athens. This is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you along here on this Wednesday. Kevin BJ, no Ben. He'll be back with us next week here on the show after
Kevin
college
and
basketball.
His beautiful voice. You don't even understand that reference? Oh, never mind.
Nope.
You're trying to come back. There's one day you're like, welcome into 3 Out BJ. And my beautiful voice. Cody, we have that.
Okay.
We have that sound. Pull the sound up, Cody, from the 3 and Out Sounders.
Apparently, it's a big deal. So
Kevin's beautiful voice.
I'm just going where you tell me to go at this point.
Listen.
Great to be here with you on this Monday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, we are presented on this beautiful day.
Beautiful day. There we go. All right.
Okay. Well
See, it's a deep cut,
done.
Kevin. I'm sorry I referenced a deep cut.
It's fine. Are we ready to name that team?
I don't know, man. Like,
Name it. Let's do it.
Look, we got named that team pulled up, but BJ, I want to apologize the last segment. Wi-Fi's been acting up today. I had a Google Doc open. The draft didn't save on the Google Doc. Lost the entire quiz. Had to rush back, retype out the quiz. It got dangerous really fast. Nothing gives me more anxiety than slow internet.
So it was all Kevin's fault.
Yes.
No, he let me know I was not doing the show appropriately and still had time to go find his doc. So it's all good. Name that team. Play it. Do it.
It's time to play Name That Team.
Gentlemen, we have a little NFL draft / free agency edition of Name That Team. Do we both know who Ryan Fitzpatrick is?
Yes.
Fitzmagic,
Then he fight in the UFC.
the Amish rifle, per Cody Queen.
He
has-
invented the $1 billion strut.
He just signed with his 9th NFL team in his career. How many of those 9 teams can you name?
I mean, is that how Name That Team
I was
works?
gonna
It
say, I
sounds,
was expecting one team, but yeah.
it sounds a little pigskin pokerish.
It's pigskin poker.
Have we changed the game right in the middle of it? Why not?
Listen,
We're
here.
So are we wagering, or is that just like a for funsies
No, we're
question?
wagering. We're wagering. I'm switching it up.
I'll say I can name 4.
How many? 5, I guess.
Ooh, Kevin getting
All
spicy.
right. I'll go 6.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Whatever.
just slow internet messes with my mind.
I mean, we
You
might
mean
as well have
you
fun
picked
with it, Kevin. Yeah, I mean, I probably 5 would have been my cutoff, but just to have fun with it. Let's see. Bucks. Are we counting the current team?
Yeah.
All right, Washington,
Yep.
Miami,
Wow. All right.
Buffalo.
Yep.
That's where it might get weird. Was it
You haven't named some of the more recognizable teams that he's played for.
the Jets?
The Jets are absolutely one of them. All right, so you have reached 5. The wager was 6.
All right. Man, see, 5 was my comfortable. The Bengals?
The Bengals are correct. Now, BJ, 3 more for the perfect sweep. Come on.
Baltimore?
No. Other
All
3
right.
teams, Rams, Titans, and Texans for Ryan Fitzpatrick there.
That's
but BJ
right.
on the board with 1 point. All right, guys, over
Good
the
job.
last 10 years, 9 different franchises have held the number 1 overall pick. How many can you name?
BJ got it right last. Go ahead. I'll let you start.
I'll say I can name 3.
4.
All right, Kevin's gonna do it to me. I'll go 5.
So there's 9, right? So you
9
Almost a
teams have
third of the
picked
league?
number 1 overall in the last 10 years.
I'll say 6. What the heck? Who cares?
Whoa, this is getting special, dude. Go do it.
BJ, if you dig deep, you can get 7.
I mean, I see, but now you're peer pressuring me, and it's not what I
Agree
want to
with
do. Let Kevin take it.
All right, 6, Kevin.
Cleveland.
That is they and I will say this: they were the ones who picked twice.
Cleveland.
Baker Mayfield and Miles Garrett.
I need how many more? 5 more. Arizona
That is correct.
with
Need 4
Kyler
more.
Murray. The Bengals. Cincinnati.
That is correct.
Let's see here.
Need
3 more.
3 more.
I'm trying to go back and now run draft picks in my brain to remember who like some of the number one guys were.
Mm-hmm. 3 more. Name Cincinnati, Arizona, and Cleveland so far.
Oh, the Jets. Have they not picked number one? Oh, darn it. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. For the
so now
for the
BJ has
Jets.
1, Kevin has negative
That's fine.
1.
It's all fine.
The other teams: the Rams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Houston Texans, Kansas City Chiefs, Indianapolis Colts, and the Carolina Panthers.
I would have got it wrong because I was also thinking that Miami might have slipped in there, but I think they've been second a couple of times. So.
All right, I'm gonna be real impressed with how you guys do on this one. 8 players currently have contracts with an average annual value over $30 million. 8 players in the NFL currently have contracts with an average annual value over $30 million. How many can you name?
I don't really care what people make necessarily, so I'll just say 1 because I have to say something. I mean,
2.
How many are there?
8, and
they're all the good
obvious.
players.
They're
it's
fairly
fine.
obvious.
3, I guess.
Whatever. 4.
Just do it. It's fine.
Go for it.
You got it.
Don't you like our attitude in this game?
Yeah,
Christian?
Whatever. Who cares? I think it's because I messed up the name at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm totally the wrong. And it wouldn't have mattered, but I mean,
I knew it as soon as the music too. I was like, oh, I put the wrong quiz down on the rundown. That was
Yeah,
my
it took the energy out of it, man. Because I thought you were going to hit us with like draft prospects and what college they went to, and I was ready to just roll.
Tomorrow, BJ. I'll give you that tomorrow.
Okay.
What
was my question? What am I naming again?
4 players with an average annual value on their contract over $30 million.
Okay. Aaron Rodgers.
That is correct.
Pat Mahomes.
That's correct.
Aaron Donald.
That is incorrect. The other: Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Deshaun Watson, and Dak Prescott.
Wow. All right. I guess I just should have went quarterbacks, and I tried to overthink it.
I still think you're in the lead, 0 to -1. There.
Yeah, there's no question.
Yes, there you go.
I think in all the times we've played actual pigskin poker, nobody has ever won with positive numbers. It's always been who gets it wrong the least.
All right. In the history of the NFL, and I did this just to poke fun at one of you guys in here. In the history of the NFL, 7 free agents have signed for contracts with value over $17 million a year. So 7 players in the history of the NFL have signed contracts where they're getting paid $17 million a year at least. How many can you name?
1.
Didn't we just do who was making over 30 million?
In the history of the NFL, that's $30 million a year. Majority of those guys are still on contracts from the team they were drafted by. These are free agents who signed for at least $17 million a year.
Kevin, hold on a second. Christian, what did you even type in to find this stuff?
The biggest contracts in the biggest free agent contracts in the history of the NFL. If that clues you in.
2. I don't know.
Woo!
Oh, take that, bro.
You said 1 already, sir.
Yeah, I said 1. Yeah, take that.
That's how you would have taken it 1.
Am I doing this?
Yes.
Free agents over 17 million.
So just like do it in your head, like use context clues here.
And like Peyton Manning.
That's one of them. $19.2 million a year when he signed with Denver.
It can't go too far back because too far back they weren't even making $17 million.
Use it as context clues. Woo, here he goes.
Don't say here I go. Like that doesn't mean anything.
About to even this bad boy up. Come on, Kevin. Let's do one more.
Signed a free agent deal for more than
17 mil a year.
I'm sure there's a better answer, but Drew Brees?
That's incorrect. No, he had it correct, Cody. You got to think recently. Olivier Vernon, when he signed with the New York Giants, Brock Osweiler signed for $18 million
going to get out of here
with the Houston Texans. Trey Flowers signed for $18 million a year with Detroit, and Ndamukong Suh signed for $19 million a year with Miami. Peyton with 19.2 in Denver. Nick Foles, $22 million a year with the Jacksonville Jaguars. That one worked out great. And Kirk Cousins, $28 million a year with the Minnesota Vikings. All right. Since 2010, 6 number 1 overall picks are no longer with their team. How many can you name? So
Wait,
six of the 10 number one overall picks since 2010 are no longer with their team.
All right, this includes 2010?
Yep.
All right, I can name 2.
Go ahead.
Kevin's just giving up on life over here.
I have really.
I was going to say, man, golly.
It's pretty easy, like relatively.
I mean, Jameis and Cam?
Yes, those are 2 of them. The other ones there are Jared Goff, Jadeveon Clowney, Andrew Luck, and Fisher there with the Kansas City Chiefs, no longer with his team. All right, this is more college football for you guys. 9 teams have had 100 players drafted at least since 2000. 9 college football teams have had at least 100 players drafted since 2000.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll say I can name 4.
Wow, BJ just pushing all his chips in on the table.
I'll do 5. Who cares?
Well, I mean, Kevin, look, you're only losing 2 to -4.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. Go
I'll
ahead.
say 6.
I'll say 7.
Oh,
Oh my God, I love the way this is going. I'm going to say 8.
All right, do 8.
Oh, Kevin.
all right, BJ, let's get it.
Alabama.
Alabama's correct.
Ohio State.
Ohio State's correct. They were actually number 1.
Ohio State ahead of Alabama. Wow.
That's correct by like 13 or 14 players.
LSU.
LSU's correct. You have gotten the top 3.
Georgia.
Georgia's correct.
How many did I say I had to get?
8. You have 4.
Oh God, that was a terrible. I will say, let's see, Florida.
Florida's correct.
I will say, even though it's been lean for a couple of years, Florida State.
Florida State's correct. I need 2 more.
And even though it's been lean for a couple of years, I will also say Miami.
Miami's correct.
1 more,
1 more.
bro. Michigan makes me nervous. I'm not submitting that. I'm just talking it out. Notre Dame makes me nervous. Obviously Tennessee. I'm trying to think of like traditional powers makes me nervous. All right, let me go with a little bit of a wild card. Let me go Oklahoma.
Oklahoma nailed it. Way to go. Other team, USC.
Okay.
2000s USC, and they've had a lot of good players in the mid 2000s as well. You were close with Michigan. I think they had 93, but they were like the first team outside of the 100s there. So BJ is at 1, positive 1 now, Cody. Kevin's at -2.
No, I'm at 2 now.
Are you? He's at 2. You're at 2. That's correct.
Kevin, every game we play, they take points away from me.
It's amazing.
I was asking my scorekeeper.
I thought we were playing Name That Team, so I can't say.
I was asking my scorekeeper. All right, final question here. This one's just fun because of one of the names in here. Deshaun Watson, a lot of rumors that he is going to be traded. He is tied currently for the rookie record for most touchdown passes in a game with 5 touchdowns in a game. There's 4 other guys who have also done this in their rookie year. How many can you name?
There's 4 of them.
Yep.
All right, that was a lot of verbiage. Just to confirm,
So
4 guys have thrown 5 touchdown passes in a game as a rookie.
Well, technically 5 because Deshaun Watson's one of them. I need you to name the other 4.
All right, I guess I'll go 1. Kevin, you might as well just rally.
Yeah, 4. I might as well just say 4.
Get after
All right.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Well, some of this could be a tricky question because guys like Tom Brady didn't necessarily play as what would be their rookie season, but I'm sure Peyton Manning had to have done it with the Colts because he was all they had.
Peyton Manning was terrible his rookie year.
Okay, he was terrible. At the end, game over, moving on.
Didn't he throw like 20 interceptions? Yeah, that's correct.
No, I didn't think this was an interceptions question.
Daniel Jones threw 5 touchdowns. Jameis Winston threw 5 touchdowns in a game his rookie year. Matthew Stafford threw 5 touchdowns. And good old Ray Boyvid, whose career ended in 1938, threw 5 touchdowns.
Of course he did.
In a single game. Just slinging the rock around there in the late 20s.
When Ray came galloping off the sidelines, you were scared.
In the roaring 20s.
You knew dimes were about to, or I guess in the roaring 20s, nickels were about to be dropped.
That's a lot of money right there, Kevin.
Yeah, it was.
Maybe dropping pennies.
There you go.
Maybe dropping pennies. Good old Ray Boyvid.
I remember him. He was great.
When was the last time you had a Ray Boyvid
Never.
name drop?
And that'll be the last time we have one on the show as well. We'll come back. More to come. 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.
But like according to all of the police reports and the confession of the actual serial killer, or I guess mass shooter is the better phrase. His confession is he didn't kill them out of racially charged motivation. He said he shot them because they were contributing to his sex addiction.
I think you guys are coming over the.
Cody said the board's cold.
Yeah.
It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin and BJ here on this Wednesday. We'll get to take 3 coming up in hour number 2. Also, Robbie Weinstein, 247 Sports, will join us next hour. Talk some SEC football with him, as we will with Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI.com. Georgia with their pro day earlier today in Athens. So we'll get some of the results from there and get the latest from Brooks on who maybe improved their draft stock, who maybe still has some work to do heading into the draft. But BJ, obviously, top news story around the country today is the horrific event there in north of Atlanta, where 8 people lost their lives last night. Certainly thoughts and prayers with the victims and their families.
Yeah, so tragic, so awful, and it's just so disturbing and terrible to continue to see headlines like this. And I absolutely echo your sentiments. Thoughts and prayers with the families, the community, the country, and some profound posts have been made on social media. I know the Atlanta Falcons shared a post from former Georgia Southern kicker Younghoe Koo, who's an Asian American. Some powerful perspective from him, but just we certainly condemn hate of all types. We've seen it tragically, horrifically, including here in coastal Georgia. So we just continue to pray for peace, pray for unity, and condemn all acts of hate, and just pray for those affected. You just hate to continue to see stuff like this. It's so disturbing and overwhelming when you see headlines like this, and we're just praying and hoping for better days.
Well said. We've got a lot more to get to coming up here on the show as we roll along here on this Wednesday. Again, Robbie Weinstein, Brooks Austin going to join us. Jake Mastriani will join us from Tomahawk Take, and we will talk some Braves baseball with him as the Braves about 2 weeks away from opening day and getting the Major League Baseball season back underway and started. So he'll join us coming up in the final hour of the program. Also, we mentioned a little bit earlier in the show as well, March Madness coming up in a couple of days, and the NCAA Vice President of Operations saying all 68 teams are good to go for the tournament. So all the protocols that all those teams were asked to do to get ready to play in Indianapolis and be allowed to play in Indianapolis, apparently they have met those, and the NCAA tournament looks to move forward. I know we've had some travel parties with COVID issues, and we've seen some of those things, but in terms of now the teams that are there in Indianapolis, all 68 have gotten the good to go for the NCAA tournament, which begins again fully on Friday after Thursday night's play-in games to set that field of 64. We've got more to come here on this Wednesday. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live ESPNcoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett here with you on this Wednesday. Plenty to get to here in hour 2. Robbie Weinstein, 247 Sports, going to join us. Also, Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI, going to join us. Georgia having their pro day, and certainly everybody's going to get caught up in 40 times, who did well, who didn't. We'll get the latest from Brooks Austin on that coming up a little bit later here in hour number 2. But first, it's 4 o'clock. Let's take 3 here on 3 and Out.
Gentlemen, happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
Thank you.
You doing all right, Kevin? You okay? You're kind of flustered after that pigskin poker.
I'm doing fine. I'm kind of not sure if this is actually take 3 or not. I'm just wondering.
It's absolutely take 3. You hear the music? We always get this correct. When was the last time we didn't get the imaging correct for something? Anyway, take 1.
About 20 minutes ago.
Take 1. Kevin, BJ, need to know, what is the luckiest play you've ever seen?
Well, now Kevin made a good point during the show meeting, because when you hear phraseology like that, you immediately think of plays that are just kind of not necessarily designed to go a certain way, like a Hail Mary. Like, for example, I know a Hail Mary is meant to accomplish something, but there's not a specific design. It's everybody go as far as you can to the end zone, and we're going to throw it up. It's not like there's a timing mechanism at play. So Hail Mary is what I think about. You think about some of the quote-unquote fluke plays, but there is an element of at least practicality to most of those. Now, if we were talking about sports moments and not just plays, I was looking at some of the NBA draft lottery, number 1 overall pick, I guess, results, and some of those have been really lucky. Like if Cleveland wouldn't have gotten the number 1 overall pick with LeBron James, it's like that would have been catastrophic. But Kevin, I will steal yours because you're right.
Great.
Wow.
No, but he's right. So look, you expect me to call him out. You expect me to go back and forth with him. You expect me to get into these debates with him when he's wrong. But when he's right, I can't give the man some credit.
He just steals it, plagiarizes.
All right, then you say it first. I haven't said it yet.
Go ahead.
No, you want to say like Kevin's is right, but here's another one. Like give us another one. There's plenty of lucky plays.
Go ahead and say it, because I have another one, so it's fine.
You have another one?
Real world application. So
okay, well the play when Nebraska and Missouri had the pass in the end zone that was incomplete, bounced off the dude's leg, so it was not like it was thrown up like to DeAndre Hopkins, or who was it that caught the Hail Mary against Tennessee? Was it Josh Malone? It was not like a specific quarterback to receiver Hail Mary. It was a quarterback to ground to leg to knee to receiver. Nebraska, Missouri. I think that one with the Nebraska dub, that one stands out as one of the all-time luckiest plays, just because it was literally bouncing around like pinball. It wasn't thrown to the receiver.
That was going to be mine. That was one of the most incredibly lucky plays I've ever seen. But I have a real life application for mine here, Christian and BJ. This is way back when we went for my bachelor party. Me and some friends went up into the mountains of North Georgia, and we were playing golf on the golf course. So the golf course is built on the side of a mountain, and some of the hills are on the side of the hill. So we get to this par 3. My buddy's on the tee box. It's pretty tight little fairway to get down to we have an elevated tee box. The green is below us. He gets up there. He's left-handed. He absolutely pulls one straight right into the woods. You hear it hitting trees and everything.
Oh, like the good old thunk?
Yeah. All of a sudden, off the side of the mountain comes his ball, plop, onto the green and stops like 2 inches from the hole. We were all just looking at each other like what?
It sounds like when
seriously, what just happened?
Sounds like when the presidents play golf and they shank one off, and the
right,
Secret Service just throws the ball back onto the green.
Like a squirrel was in the woods and just coughed it out there or something. I mean, it was like, because when I say it was in the woods, like it was in the woods. Like he hit it, and you're like, oh, that's deep.
Like Ben was hiking through the woods,
right? You're like, as soon as he hit it, you're like, bro, that's deep. You might just want to take a drop. But you keep hearing twigs.
Yeah.
You keep hearing twigs snap and stuff, and then all of a sudden, out the side of the mountain, like you're playing some kind of weird putt, it just plops out onto the green and rolls right next to the hole. We're like, okay, I guess that's one way to do it. I guess.
That's a good one.
In real life, in front of my own 2 eyes, that's probably the luckiest thing I've ever seen happen ever.
I have 2. One of them I have to be petty as a Georgia fan. I could say the Julian Edelman catch in the Super Bowl, but that one's up there, but I still think the Ricardo Lewis prayer at Jordan Hare is one of the luckier plays I've ever seen in my life. Not just the fact that he caught a Hail Mary pass, but the way it happened, right? Two Georgia safeties go up to intercept the ball. Game should be over. Ball bounces off of them, but how it bounced off of them, Kevin, into a perfect spiral into Ricardo Lewis's hands to walk off that game.
That's true.
Absolutely
That
nuts.
is a good one. That's probably better than the ones we said.
Yeah, that one's lucky, but I still think one of the luckier plays, and this one always comes to mind for me, Carlos Martinez in 1993. I've just always seen the highlights of this. He hit a long pop fly, but it became a home run once it bounced off the top of Jose Canseco's head into the stands. To me, whenever I think of lucky play, that one just makes me crack up because Jose Canseco, known for hitting bombs, helped somebody else hit a home run, Kevin, by letting it bounce off of his head.
Very good. Very good. Now he's all the rage on the social
old
media.
Twitter spheres. Yeah. He lost a boxing match the other day. But that being said, BJ, I was expecting you to counter the Ricardo Lewis prayer during here and be like, that's not luck. That's
where opportunity meets preparation.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's kind of what I was getting at, because in the show meeting, Kevin and I were talking about some of the plays like that, and at least
luck.
No, because here's what I'm getting at. I agree there was an element of positioning there that was kind of non-traditional, and obviously you can't control, the bounce of where a ball goes. But at least in theory, you had a play that was designed to hit a player in stride. Now, there was a slight change of direction. The play Kevin's talking about, if you haven't seen it, you need to look it up on YouTube, Nebraska, Missouri. Like, the ball is no longer meant to go to a player. Like, it hits the ground, it's moving around, it's hitting off of legs. I mean, it is, and the guy
what about Hunter Henry versus Ole Miss a few years back?
Yeah, that was sick.
Where he just chucked the ball back over his head.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. But this was a game-winning play. I mean, Hunter Henry, that sequence at the end of that game was nuts. But literally, the dude's not even expecting to catch it. Like, Missouri's like, oh, we're about to pull off this great upset, and then the ball just lands in his lap. I mean, that's luck.
All right, I guess. I still think, Ricardo's is lucky, but that's just me. Take two. Need to know what the best-looking green uniforms are in sport.
It's the old Oregon uniforms, and I'm talking about like Achilles Smith. I'm talking about back in the day, not these new age. I understand that Oregon is kind of the trendsetter for uniforms, and they have a wide variety of options, some of which are not green. But Kevin, you know what I'm talking about. And I did a Google search to see when the last time they've worn these. They wore them with Marcus Mariota, at least I guess in a throwback capacity. But if you want to go to do a Google image search and type in old Oregon football uniforms, you're talking about green. Like Kevin, I know you were saying Christian's shirt that he's wearing is not green.
That's similar to thick when you were describing chili.
Yes, correct. So Christian's wearing like a dark kind of a hint of green, but it's almost like green mixed with something else.
Army green.
Army green, right? These Oregon uniforms are green with like 5 E's, like green. And what obviously sets them off and highlights them is that the yellow is the complementary color. And I'm not talking about gold. I'm not talking about maize. I'm talking about yellow. So when you have green with a yellow helmet and yellow pants, that is A, fresh, B, old school, and C, green. Not green. No.
He's
For those watching on the video, all right, these if you find them, the helmet literally just has an interlocking UO or OU.
Player to look up, BJ.
Huh? It's old school Oregon. I'll find a picture and I'll send it to you. I don't have the technological ability to like turn it into an image.
I don't think that's it either, Cody.
No, that's it. Those are fresh.
There you go. Kevin?
Took a lot of explaining. I was going to say I actually went with the similar color combo. The Oakland A's, to me, like the really old school green, looks good. I know somebody's probably like pulling over on the side of the road screaming at us, but I would say the Boston Celtics a close number 2.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics are the ones you always think of. I'm surprised nobody went the Miami Hurricane uniforms. I think those are some pretty sick uniforms. I like when the Red Sox go with their green alternates, which typically only wear like once or twice a year, but those are sick.
Usually on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, those are sick as well. But yeah, I mean, I think the Celtics are the standard. I mean, if you want to talk about in soccer, I mean, actual Celtic, when you go over into the European leagues over there with the white and green stripes, those are pretty sick as well. All right, finally, take three. What is in the proverbial pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for your favorite team?
Well, I mean, Christian, you can sympathize with this. Kevin thinks it's funny, but given that you have to wait every 4 years for the World Cup to come around, I mean, I'd like to make it. From the standpoint of the men's national team. I know we have some soccer folks in the office. I see PJ in the background. PJ is a big soccer fan. I mean, the U.S. women's national team, elite, dominant. I mean, just incredible. The men's national team. What was it the last time out? And the thing that made it worse is Kevin called it and was talking it into existence all day, that Team USA had to either tie and something else had to happen, and they lost to Trinidad and Tobago. And of course the other thing happened and the other result, and they didn't make the World Cup. So now you're talking about having to wait 7-8 years. Okay, nod your head. That's painful. I mean, that hurts. So I would just say I'm going to set my goals modestly, okay? For the U.S. men's national team, let's just make the World Cup. And if we want to get crazy, if we want to get weird, I'll say let's advance to the knockout stage.
Well, aren't they? Christian was telling me this the other day. They're guaranteed to make it because they're the host nation. So it's
well, not in
2022,
but I believe
2026, Kevin.
North America is hosting it.
Cool. I can wait 5 more years. It's fine.
Yeah, great.
I mean, I think obviously, like BJ said, the ultimate pot of gold is the championship for any team.
It's true.
I mean, what else is there?
For the Bravos?
Yeah, I mean, what else is there? Cy Youngs, who cares? Championship.
The ship.
I mean, that's it. That's the only pot of gold that anybody should want.
It's true. I mean, I'll say the same thing. You say the same thing for Georgia. BJ, you can say the same thing for Florida State basketball. That's the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, right?
Hey, Florida State basketball.
The sun keeps coming out and burning off the rainbow, so we never get to get there.
Listen,
and the sun is named Nick Saban.
I'm going to stand up for Florida State basketball here. Florida State basketball made the national championship in 72. Lost to who? UCLA, one of the greatest teams of all time. So shout out to the 72 FSU basketball team.
I think we'll just end it on that.
So, Kevin, let's just talk about the show we're doing today. We're talking about Ray Boyvid in the 1972 Florida State Seminole basketball team.
Yes, we will come back. We'll talk about the 1960 Vanderbilt Commodores with Robbie Weinstein, 247 Sports. No, just kidding. We'll talk about the 2020 version as they open up spring practice.
Or 2021 one?
Still, whatever. Brooks Austin still to come here in about 20 minutes as well. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. Glad you are with us here on this Wednesday. Spring practice opening up all across the Southeast. Vanderbilt, no different. They opened up today. New head coach Clark Lee taking over there in Nashville. Joining us here from 247 Sports, Robbie Weinstein covers the Commodores and the national news for 247. He steps in here on 3 and Out. Robbie, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm glad spring practice is finally started.
Oh, absolutely. And what is Clark Lee stepping into here in Vanderbilt? I know a lot of guys in the transfer portal. A rough season in 2020. What is he looking at here as they start spring?
It's interesting because they have lost a lot of guys over the last couple of years to the transfer portal. The vast majority of them weren't actually good players, but of course, at this level of football, I mean, you need the depth, right? So that was a big issue last season. The good thing for them is that they do get a lot of guys who had opted out of last season who are coming back, especially on the offensive line. 3 potential starters coming back. So some guys on defense as well. A couple guys coming back from injury. I think the roster is going to be replenished a little bit this season. But, no doubt, I think the defense, I mean, he's going to need to work his magic on defense because I do think he's walking into a situation on that side of the ball where there's not a ton of experience, and the guys who are experienced just haven't proven to be good SEC football players for the most part. So that is going to be interesting because Lee does have a defensive background, but there's a lot of work to do.
Does Vanderbilt feel like it has a quarterback to build around in Ken Seals?
Yeah, I think they do feel that way. So the staff got here in January, and they have not taken a quarterback either late in the 2021 cycle or in the transfer market or anything like that. They see him, I believe, as the quarterback of the future. He had his ups and downs last season for sure, but I think considering he was a true freshman, playing behind a patchwork offensive line with okay but not great or probably even good offensive weapons around him, I think he did all right, all things considered. This will be a big season for him to see if he can take a step forward now that the offensive line should be significantly better. The weapons around him, he has some chemistry with them. Most of them are coming back. But I do think he can be a quality SEC starting quarterback, no doubt about it. Will he get there? I can't read the future, but I really like him as a prospect. And he, 2 years from now or whatever, he could be pretty good.
Robbie Weinstein joining us here on 3 and Out. And Robbie, as you look at spring, obviously getting the quarterback there offensively, what are they trying to be here in 2021? Obviously, that's very important. I know a lot of people said, hey, if you're Vanderbilt, do something different to try to differentiate yourself from the rest of the league. But what is the offensive identity going to be, you think, when they get it all put in?
Mm-hmm. Well, so the offensive coordinator is David Wright, who's coming from the Arizona Cardinals. He was the wide receivers coach there. So he has worked with Cliff Kingsbury at multiple stops. I believe he was at Texas Tech with Cliff Kingsbury as well. And or if not, then there certainly is a relationship there. He also was with the Green Bay Packers. So what I have heard is that it's not going to be air raid. It will be closer to the Packers offense than the air raid. But there could be some air raid concepts. So I think they're going to really try to mold the offense to whatever they feel the personnel looks like. It's kind of a mystery, to be honest, because spring ball just started. They're letting only like 1 or 2 reporters in per day. So I didn't get to go today. I'm going on Friday. And I don't even know how much I'm going to see of the offense and, actually going through plays and stuff like that. But I'm expecting some sort of pro-style spread of some sort. Probably not that much different from last season, but they'll try to be probably more creative. And there could be some air raid aspects to it, but they're definitely not going to go full air raid.
Normally, traditionally, you think about Vanderbilt and defense is where they can be successful. You think about, the guys that have gone on to the NFL. Is this a year where even with that tradition, they're probably going to be rebuilding a little bit?
Sure. I think they're going to be rebuilding. Losing Dio Dangbo to the NFL draft on the edge is going to be tough. He had a very outside chance of being a first round pick. I know that the Falcons had a first-round grade on him, actually. He tore either his ACL or his Achilles recently, so that could depress his draft stock a little bit, but I could still see him going in like the third round or something like that. So I don't know. That's going to really hurt their pass rush. Andre Mintz was another quality pass rusher who is entering the draft, and he was a senior. We'll see if he gets selected or not, but definitely would be a camp invite guy. So they are, it's still a young roster. They have a large freshman class. And so, I don't know that they're going to be worse or significantly worse than, say, Tennessee or South Carolina, since those teams aren't necessarily looking that great either. But, I think there's no way that they get higher than fifth in the SEC East. And, a lot of people are going to pick them for last, and I think that's very reasonable. So I would expect something, definitely rebuilding again and something like 4 wins. And then maybe in 2022 you can challenge for a bowl bid, but in the short term, I would be pretty surprised if they win more than like one SEC game, because even though the SEC is somewhat down, Vanderbilt just has a long way to go based on last season to get back to being competitive in this conference.
Certainly, that was going to be kind of the next thing, is how patient is Vanderbilt going to be there with Clark Lee? I know obviously everyone wants to get back to the James Franklin days of Vanderbilt football, but what you're talking about is obviously going to take some time to get you even remotely close to being able to do that.
Oh yeah, it is going to take some time, and Lee will get a long leash, a very long leash. Vanderbilt is not like the rest of the SEC, or at least, certainly not like the Auburns and Tennessees of the world that have a really quick trigger when it comes to firing coaches. He's going to get minimum 4 years, probably more. I think that they will not need that long to at least get the product competitive again. Even Derek Mason, I don't know that he was a great football coach. I don't think he was bad or terrible by any means, but maybe he was kind of average, and he at least got them to 2 bowl berths. Which you look at the history of Vanderbilt football, going to a bowl like every other year is above average for them. So I think Lee could realistically have them in a bowl in 2022 or 2023. Can they reach the James Franklin heights? That's so hard to say right now because they really have just gotten started. They're in the early phases, even of just building the 2022 recruiting class. I think Lee is a really sharp guy. Vanderbilt is putting more investment into the program in terms of having a larger staff overall, like support staff and stuff like that. I think they're going to be probably announcing facility upgrades pretty soon here. So there's some positive indicators, but I would say in terms of getting back to the James Franklin level, if that happens, that's going to be a long-term type of thing, like 3-4 years from now.
47 Sports, our guest here on 3 and Out. Robbie, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys, and enjoy your spring as well.
Will do. Robbie Weinstein joining us here on 3 and Out, talking about Vanderbilt, the challenges there. BJ, they were 0 for the SEC, obviously, in 2020. Getting to 6 wins in 2 years with that roster. He came right out and said, look, Vanderbilt had a lot of guys that just weren't SEC caliber on the roster. And you need that to try to compete. It seems to me like it's a little farther off than maybe 2 seasons to get back to a bowl game.
Well, they're clearly kind of starting over and are probably going to need some time to build back up the depth. I do think, he mentioned Seals, the quarterback. I think quietly he had a pretty promising freshman season. Difficult circumstances, obviously a schedule with Texas A&M and LSU right out of the gate, and then Florida later in the year. He had 12 touchdown passes, 10 interceptions, completed 65% of his passes. When you're talking about potentially kind of learning on the fly in an all SEC schedule as a freshman on a team that's overwhelmed, I think you can build on that. So Vanderbilt, normally really good defensively. I think they're going to have to find some new playmakers along the front 7, but I think Ken Seals is a quarterback that gives them a player to build around.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. We'll come back. We'll talk some Georgia football. Pro Day there in Athens. Brooks Dogs Daily on SI going to join us when we return. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett here with you. Glad you were with us. Streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can catch us here on the show as well, live streaming. So glad you are with us. Big day in Athens, not only because spring practice is going on, but also Georgia had their pro day today. And joining us here from Dogs Daily on SI.com, Brooks Austin steps in here on 3 and Out. Brooks, welcome to the show. How are you?
Man, it seems like my weekly appearance on 3 and Out. Let's get after it, boys.
Hey, well, when there's news to get, you bring it to us. So tell us about the pro day there in Athens. Any surprises? Anything stand out from what you were able to see?
So for the first time since 1982, college prospects entering the NFL had no NFL combine. There was no. I mean, there's going to be a virtual NFL combine, but it's going to be Zoom meetings, yada yada yada. This is the only opportunity for individuals like Richard LeCount, Eric Stokes, Tyson Campbell, Aziz Ogilari, and the rest of the guys that competed today to work out and show their physical abilities and show their physical presence in the presence of scouts that are actually there. Each representative team got to send up to 3 representatives to Athens to watch today, and it was a loaded house, as you saw on TV. If you got the opportunity to watch it on TV, there were people everywhere. There were NFL scouts everywhere. So it's a great opportunity for these young men, but it's the only opportunity for these young men, except for a guy like Eric Stokes that had an opportunity to do a private pro day. Apart from that, it was a one-shot kind of deal for these guys. So a lot of pressure on these young men to perform well today, and a lot of them did.
I know on your Twitter feed you talked a lot about Monty Rice. What did he do today?
I mean, Monty ran unofficially 4.57, and he looked really good overall, just in terms of his energy, his effort, his mobility, and position drills and in-field drills. But, the questions the NFL has about Monty, and a lot of them come from that 2019 season where NFL observers and NFL scouts and GMs, they noticed when Kirby Smart pulls Monty Rice off the field on 3rd and long to put a true freshman like Nakobe Dean on the field. And that's what Georgia did. 3rd and 5 plus the entire year during 2019. Monty Rice was off the field. Nakobe Dean and Tay Crowder were the 2 linebackers. Of course, Crowder goes off to the NFL. And in 2020, NFL evaluators got their first and really only opportunity to watch Monty Rice, when healthy, play a full 3 downs on defense and cover and do things like that. And I think he answered a lot of questions. And then you go out today and you run 4.57. NFL scouts, when they see that come across their feed, they're going to say, well, damn, I got to go back and watch this tape again. And luckily for Monty, the tape as a senior looks really, really good. He answered all those questions about his top-end athleticism with tape and with testing today. So I think he made himself a good chunk of change today, gentlemen.
Brooks Austin joining us here on 3 and Out. And Brooks, I know you were very high on Ben Cleveland and what he would be able to do. I think unofficially he went under 5 in the 40. I think the official was a little bit back over 5. But how do you think he did as a big man, really putting his stock out there?
Yeah, that's the other thing we have problems with not having a combine. We don't have an official number. See, the official number you said might have came in over 5. I saw 4.95 was the highest. Lowest I saw down to 4.85 was the initial unofficial reports or whatever. Who cares? The dude ran fast at a big size. We knew he was going to be able to do that. But, guys, I don't think it does anything other than show that Ben's got, impressive top-end speed. But if you watch him on tape and if you really hone in on his 5.10 5 numbers, which nobody's really going to be reporting, I don't believe. I haven't seen them. No one's been leaking them out. I haven't seen an unofficial time on the 5.10 5, but tape says not a real good, side-to-side athlete, which is going to force him into a scheme fit. I think they did a good job. One of the few things they did well today on the SEC Network broadcast was talk about how Ben's more of a power scheme football player. He's made to run downhill or block downhill. If you're trying to do anything with him side to side, he's going to fail. And I think they did a good job talking about that today. And that 4.85, 4.95, 5.05, it doesn't change any of that, whatever the 40 time was. It doesn't change anything that NFL evaluators can see on tape, which is that the young man, or the man is challenged side to side. But by God, you get him going forward, and he's going to move mountains. He's going to move mass and do it a good job doing so.
I know Richard LeCount ran in the 4.7s and the 40. Is that a case of him maybe not being 100% healthy?
Yeah, it was actually, I think 4.79, came back 4.82. That's one thing I don't know what to tell you about Richard. No one knows. Literally, the only information I've gotten out of the Richard LeCount camp actually, ironically, came from the state house floor, and it was from his mom telling the state senate that he was back in training and getting ready for the NFL Combine. It's been really, really quiet around Richard LeCount since his injury or since his crash. I don't know how bad it was. The only thing I know is that he was 100% truthful and upfront with the NFL evaluators. We'll see how that shakes out. But today, no, did not look good. But I didn't expect him to test well, to be honest with you guys. Like, I knew he was going to come in around 5'10", 5'11", 190 pounds. He came in at 5'10 and a quarter, 195 pounds. So a little bit shorter and a little bit heavier than I thought he was going to come in. I thought he was going to run somewhere around 4'6". He came out almost 4'8". So it was not a good day test-wise for Richie, but he did what we all knew he could do, which was go out and field drills and catch the football and make plays. And I felt like he did a good job doing that. But in terms of the flashy numbers, they're not there. But I didn't expect them to be there. I just didn't expect them to be that bad. I mean, 4'8" doesn't play on Sundays in the NFL at safety. It just doesn't. Like, there's no history for it in terms of drafted guys playing safety and getting drafted running 4'8". I think the slowest at the NFL Combine at the safety position over the last 10 years was 4.78, and that gentleman went undrafted. So it's not a good look to see that number, but who knows? It's a good point. Who knows how fully healthy, how much time he actually had to prepare for this truly was there.
And Brooks, I know you're a tape guy, and that's something that always fascinates me about the process of, hey, we boil guys down to, hey, what'd you run in the 40 yards in a straight line? What did you do laying on your back with a bench press? Could you jump straight up from a dead stop and do? I know those things measure athleticism, but how do you counter that versus what you actually see on tape? Like, man, that guy ran slow in the 40, but I flipped the tape on and he's making plays.
Yeah, I don't think I could be an NFL scout. I'll be honest with you, because they place such an emphasis on the data points, the numbers that they can. It's a better transfer, or you have a more ability to transfer the numbers and the data points than you actually do the film. I think that's the way the NFL looks at it, and I've never evaluated that way. I've always evaluated with, like, God dang, when you turn the tape on, Richard LeCount looks like the best player on Georgia's defense on film. I know he's small. I know he's not fast. I get all that, but he's instinctual. He's explosive. He plays with a level of physicality that's needed. All those things, but the NFL looks at that and says, yeah, but he's 4'8". So even if he is physical, he's not fast enough and explosive enough to even get to the point to where he can unleash that physicality. That's what the NFL says when they look at those numbers. I've never been that type of person. I've always been the type of person that says, well, Monty Rice is a 4.57 runner, but I've got tape of him running with Jalen Waddle, who's going to run God knows what when he when he actually is fully healthy to run a 40. I mean, the game speed is important to me. The data points are very, very, very important to the NFL. So I don't know how you do that. That's why I said I don't think I could be that level of an NFL scout, because they put too much emphasis on data points. But that's what we are nowadays. It's a height, weight, speed game, guys, and he's not passing tests as a height, weight, speed guy right now.
Aziz Ogilari has long been projected to be a first-round pick. How did he do today?
Say that again?
Aziz Ogilari has long been projected to be a first-round pick. How did he look today?
I mean, he was a guy I expected to measure in at like 6'3 3/4, like 242 pounds. He came in just over 6'2 at 249, so a little shorter, but a lot heavier than I imagined Aziz to be. And then he goes out and runs at 4'6 in the 40. He checked all boxes today. I mean, he looks the part. He's explosive. He did 28 reps on the bench. So all that shows me is that this kid for 3 years at Georgia has been working his backside off. and the tape's incredible. And he weighed in at almost 250 pounds, and he's young. So if you told me 3 years from now, NFL evaluators are projecting Aziz Ogilari to be 265 pounds, I would say, yeah, he can hold that, whatever. Yeah, if you want to give him another 15 pounds, he's good. So I think he answered a lot of questions today about his overall size. The length numbers are there too. I think he had like really, really long arms and a long wingspan, which we knew going into it. So the measurables are there. The testing numbers are there. The tape is there. Everything about Aziz Ogilari's profile, and when you add in the character evaluation, says top 25 pick, in my opinion.
Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI.com, joining us here on 3 and Out. Brooks, also this in conjunction with spring practice starting. Who's a guy that you are excited to see progress here throughout the spring? Just one guy top of your head that you're like, that's the guy I want to watch, good, bad, indifferent, how he performs here over the spring practice.
My man put me on one guy when I've got like
well, I know that's
that I'm watching. No, I think like everyone wants to talk about corner, everyone wants to talk about offensive tackle, the young guys, backup quarterback, stuff like that. What's going on with Quay Walker and Channing Tindall? Because Nakobe Dean's not going to be practicing very much this spring, if at all. So those two guys, Tindall and Quay Walker, know for a fact that they're competing for one spot this fall. I think those two guys, I would love to watch, just like put a GoPro on both of their helmets. I would love to see it. I think it would be must-see television. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to see any of that. It's all going to be hearsay and stuff like that. We'll see it come G-Day, but that's about all we're going to get, other than 60-second clips of Kearis Jackson holding a selfie camera and Jordan Davis doing dog jacks. That's about all you're going to get this spring in terms of video content that you can watch and verify. You're not going to get an in-person look. You're not going to get any of that. You're just going to get hearsay and coach speak and player interviews. That's about it.
Brooks, you're fitting right in on the show here on 3 and Out, following the protocols. We asked for one, you gave us two. That's like what everybody does on the show. So hey, you're right here at home on 3 and Out.
I'm right here at home on ESPN Coast. You guys call me anytime you want me.
Hey man, we appreciate it. Keep up the good work. We'll talk soon, man.
We'll see you, brother.
Hey, Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI. He took a page right out of your book, BJ. Hey, I need one. Well, let me give you two.
Give me your favorite green jersey ever.
Yeah, let me tell you about my favorite green jersey. You got the Celtics and you got the Jets. I mean, that is
also got to throw Oregon in there, right? With Miami, those are my favorites.
You guys don't understand. Sometimes when you're given the directive to provide one answer, you use multiple answers to frame the one answer.
No, but he didn't. He didn't do that.
He gave us two guys.
He literally said, "Man, you're going to make me say one. Here's two guys."
I said
what he said.
I said sometimes. In his instance, I think he just went with the tie, and that's fine. You have ties.
But if you have a tie and it's at the top, it's tied for first, and then it doesn't go to second, it goes to third, and therefore two is not what we were asking for,
Yes.
BJ.
He has followed protocol to a T.
What does two first place finishers being followed by a third place finisher have to do with
that? You're saying that two people being tied can equate to being one answer. That's not the case. They take up two slots, therefore they are two. And Kevin asked for one.
That's right.
Quit trying to defend him because you do it.
When you look at conference standings, when you look at division standings, you have ties. You have two entities in one slot. You can have two favorite players.
That's why only one goes to the championship.
But then the next spot down wouldn't immediately go to second. It goes to third. If you have two ties,
I agree.
It goes to third after that.
I agree.
And if Florida and Georgia tie in the East, who goes to the SEC championship game? Both of them?
Well, maybe what he's saying is if they had a drill.
Kevin with the trump card.
No,
get out of this corner.
He's saying if Walker and Tindall had a drill, a head-to-head, then you could get a winner, much like at the head-to-head with Georgia and Florida.
Kevin just put the nail in the coffin right
it's
there.
Over. It's over. Hide
sick.
yourself in shame,
RKO
and we'll come back.
Out of nowhere.
Yes, it's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back. It's 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett. Glad you are with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on the show. As again, pro days going on, BJ. I know we talked to Brooks Austin just last segment. What do you make of some of the numbers? Richard LeCount 4.8 in the 40. Are you? I know you're a tape guy like me, but obviously, as you heard Brooks say, NFL likes to put the numbers in their little data machine and play it out that way.
Yeah, I believe in the tape. I agree with Brooks. You watch Georgia play defense, and Richard LeCount dominates. You watch Georgia against elite competition, and Richard LeCount is there. You watch him on the big stage; he is as good as it gets. So I'm a big believer in Richard LeCount. I think he absolutely can play at the next level. And I'm with you. When you talk about a combine performance, which is very specific and non kind of football in nature, versus game tape and years of production, I'm a game tape guy every time.
We've got more to come. Final hour of the show. We'll talk some college basketball. NCAA tournament set to get started on Thursday with the play-in games in mass on Friday. We'll get to that. Josh Pastner, Georgia Tech head coach, set to join us momentarily. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live at ESPNCoastal.com. Welcome back. It's 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett here with you on this Wednesday. Glad you're making us a part of your day. Streaming live, ESPNcoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well, and you can join us there along the show. Don't forget, sign up for our ESPN Coastal Bracket Challenge presented by Low Country Honda Dealers. Fill out your bracket, play along with us. First prize gets a 55-inch flat screen TV. Second prize, a nice Budweiser grill as well. So you can sign up with us. Go to our social media. We got a link to get you there, or go to ESPN.com in their bracket and look us up at ESPN Coastal Challenge and hop in, play along with us with your bracket, see where we all stand, and we will see what happens. We are efforting or awaiting Josh Pastner, BJ, Georgia Tech men's basketball coach, got them into the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2010. They've drawn Loyola of Chicago, who were the darlings of the tournament a couple of years ago in the first round as the 8-9 matchup.
Yeah, and Georgia Tech is on a remarkable run of their own. You think about the ACC championship, that speaks for itself, history made there. But what's absolutely remarkable about Georgia Tech, they haven't lost since before Valentine's Day. Georgia Tech's last loss was on February 12th. And if I'm remembering that game correctly, that was a loss on a buzzer beater. So Georgia Tech has been playing incredible basketball for 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, you don't see 8-9 game winning streaks in the ACC. And in that span over the last month, you've seen Georgia Tech win at Virginia Tech. That's a top 15 win. Beat Syracuse. They're in the tournament. Beat Duke. That's always tough. Beat a Florida State team that's a 4 seed in the tournament and was also in the top 15. So I like this team a lot. I like the fact that you have veteran leadership, guys like Jose Alvarado, who does it offensively, does it defensively. What's interesting, Kevin, about Moses Wright is I don't know that he had his best stretch of games necessarily in the ACC tournament. I mean, it was impressive that Georgia Tech was able to win a conference title without the player of the year necessarily going off. So I think what's exciting about Georgia Tech as you look at them in March is they can win with kind of that one guy leading you like Moses Wright, or they can win if he has a quote unquote off night and you need Alvarado or DeVoe or other players to step up. So I think it's a versatile team. I think it's a defense-oriented team, and I think it's a squad that you definitely got to keep an eye on. But that's a tough draw, man. Loyola has, I think, 4 losses on the year. They obviously are no stranger to success this time of year. So that's a tough draw for Georgia Tech. And I said it a couple of days ago, Kevin, I think Georgia Tech should have had a better seed. I mean, you're the ACC champ. You've won for a month straight. I mean, what more do you got to do to get out of that dreaded 8-9 matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot to be in. But again, I think at this point, rather be in than not in if you're Georgia Tech, given the drought you've been on. But this is a special group for Georgia Tech as well that have obviously started out 0-2. I think when we talked to Josh Pastner back at the beginning of the season, said, look, they were 0-2, not having contact practices. And he flat told us like that wasn't going to work. He said, if we don't change something, we're not going to win a game. The way things are going. And since then, they've been a much different basketball team, BJ, and kind of put the run on there in the ACC tournament. I know both Florida State and Georgia Tech dealt with games being canceled due to coronavirus in the tournament, but you faced down one of the best teams that's been in the league all year in Florida State and got the win. So again, I think this will be interesting to see how they play in this moment. They've kind of played with that edge down the stretch. If they beat Loyola Chicago, I mean, who knows? It's the tournament, and as we've been saying all along, does crowd really play a factor? No. Does travel really play a factor? No. Everybody went to the same place. So I think it's kind of hard to gauge what happens once we get in the tournament.
It is interesting when you think about Georgia Tech's start to the year and kind of how much the narrative has changed, because right now you're an ACC champion. You're in the NCAA tournament. And if you go back to the beginning of the season that you referenced, you lost an opener to Georgia State. Now, that was a just crazy game. That was a 4 overtime game. You lost 123-120, but you lost to Georgia State and Mercer to open the year. And I think when Georgia Tech was there at 0-2, with losses to Mercer and Georgia State, very few people thought, okay, this is a squad that's going to, go on to be one of the hottest teams in the country entering the NCAA tournament that's going to win an ACC championship. So, we were talking with Horace Broadnax a couple of days ago. I don't know that there's one or two specific traits, Kevin, that you look at for NCAA tournament success. I don't know if it's free throw shooting or rebounding, but one thing that I do look at is teams that can win a number of different ways. Like I said, can you win defensively? We've seen Georgia Tech do that. Can you score 100+ if you need to? We've seen Georgia Tech do that. So I think they have the versatility. Even though they have a really tough draw, I think they have the versatility to win in March.
And again, we talked to Andy Demetrio, who said, look, every team in that little quadrant there was a conference champion. I don't know how many times that's happened in the history of the NCAA tournament where your opening four pair there are all conference champions getting things started. I would say probably not too often, almost as unlikely, BJ, as I would say the champion of the ACC being the 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. I honestly am trying to think. I would have to get an ACC historian on. I think we are hopeful to talk with Wes Durham tomorrow on the show. I would be willing to bet that has not happened before, that the champion of the league got a 9 seed.
I don't understand some of the nuance that goes into the seeding. I mean, every year we look and we nitpick and we say this and that, but correct me if I'm wrong, in the same corner of the bracket, you have Clemson as a 7 seed avoiding the second round matchup with a 1. And I don't know what on Clemson's resume makes them a higher seed than Georgia Tech, especially in a sport where we value to the utmost extent a conference championship, a conference tournament title. So I do think Georgia Tech underseeded. I think I would expect them to play with a chip on their shoulder. Now, again, that draw is rough. I mean, Loyola Chicago is tied for the most wins, I think, with 24 of any team in the tournament, and they have 4 losses. And the last time we had an NCAA tournament, they made the Final Four. So I think they said Sister Jean is vaccinated and is going to be on hand. I mean, she's got a pretty good track record in the NCAA tournament. So that's a tough draw for Georgia Tech, a tough challenge. But I'm really impressed with the work Josh Pastner has done, the way he's taken this team from some struggles early in the season to where they are now. You hear the adage, you want to be playing your best basketball in March. This team is absolutely doing that.
And they've got the first round matchup. I think we maybe have found Coach Pastner here. We'll wait just 30 seconds or so, BJ, and we'll get confirmation on that as they get ready for it. Loyola Chicago coming up here in their first round matchup, I believe 4:00 on Friday when they are set to play. So first time in the tournament since 2010. And I believe we have found him. This is joining us here, the head coach of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, Josh Pastner, steps in here. Coach, congratulations on the ACC championship. You've got your squad back in the tournament for the first time since 2010. What are the emotions now that you are there on site in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I tell you what, first of all, thanks for having me. And really excited to be here in Indianapolis, playing in the 2021 NCAA tournament, just coming off of our 2021 ACC tournament title championship. And first time, as you just mentioned, in over a decade to be back for Georgia Tech to be back into the NCAA tournament. And, we've been able to do a lot of great things this year, really over the last 2 years. Some of our success over the last 2 years has just been outstanding. And so proud of our guys, so happy for Georgia Tech, for the students, the alumni, the fan base. It's a great opportunity, great times. And we got here Sunday. They've got you on lockdown. I really even haven't left my room other than to go to the practice site and the meeting in the meal room. Otherwise, you cannot leave. You cannot leave your room. You're really in a quarantine situation. So they're constantly testing. And so, but this is what you got to do in order to be able to get to the games and play, be able to play, because, we're still in obviously a global pandemic with COVID-19.
Yeah, unique circumstances, and that's made this season very difficult. So much emotion in that ACC tournament championship win over Florida State, Coach. Back and forth game late. You guys come through, and just to hear your players, Jose Alvarado, others talk about what it meant to win that championship. How special was that for you in this program?
It was beyond special. I mean, we knew what we needed to do based on the opportunity in front of us. I mean, earlier in the season, because we're on an 8-game winning streak right now, but our last loss, we had lost to Clemson at the buzzer. Nick Honor shot a shot, went off the backboard and went in. And before that, Jose Alvarado, the best free throw shooter in the ACC, missed both free throws. So it was just a gut-wrenching loss, gut-wrenching, long bus ride home. And we knew if we were going to have to play in the NCAA tournament, we were going to have to win out, literally win out. And that's what we did. We won 8 in a row over a 4-week span to win 8 in a row. That is so hard to do in this league against who we played against. You know, this year we had 5 top 20 wins. You know, we set an ACC home winning streak record for Georgia Tech. First time ever, Georgia Tech, the back-to-back years, double-digit wins in the ACC, first time ever. Most wins in a 2-year period for Georgia Tech ever in ACC play. First time since 89-90 for Georgia Tech to have 2 winning records back-to-back years in ACC play. We have just done some things that hadn't ever been done at Georgia Tech over these last 2 years, or hadn't been done in the last 30 years, 20 years. It's just been an incredible ride, and to end it with an ACC tournament championship, to lock yourself into the NCAA tourney. It was beyond special. I'm so happy for our young man. You could see the emotion with Jose Alvarado in the post-game interview, and that was a raw emotion, the tears, the joy, the enthusiasm, the work and dedication and determination to get to this point.
Josh Pastner joining us here, head basketball coach at Georgia Tech on 3 and Out. And I know it may be tough, but put into words that relationship between you and Jose Alvarado seems to be, from what we see, is a special deal. I know he spoke highly of you being there in some of his moments where he's struggled on the court and so forth. But speak to that relationship and how much he has meant to you and how much he has meant to that program.
Yeah, he's just been outstanding. I mean, we don't get to this point without Jose Alvarado and his toughness, his grit, his compete. He's an elite competitor, just truly an elite competitor. And I'm beyond just grateful and just blessed to have been able to coach him. He's been a huge part of why our program is where it is today. And he's awesome. Wouldn't trade him for anyone. And the reason we're in the position we're in, he's a huge part of that.
Coach, you guys have a heck of a draw. You have Loyola Chicago in the first round in the 8-9 matchup. What do you know about that program? Obviously a program that the nation has learned a lot about the last couple of years.
Yeah, obviously, most people are familiar with Loyola Chicago based on a few years ago. They went to the Final Four run, and obviously Sister Jean became a national story, and I'm a big Sister Jean fan, even though for this one game I got to root against Sister Jean. But maybe I can sneak and get my picture taken with her before the game. I would like to be able to get my picture taken with Sister Jean. But look, Loyola Chicago is really good. They're very well coached. Porter Mosier, the head coach, is one of the best coaches in the country. You look at their numbers; they're top 10 in both net rankings and top 10 in KenPom rankings. And they're number 1 defensively and defensive efficiency. So this is a great basketball team we're playing. They're top 20 in the country. If we're fortunate enough to win, it would actually be our 6th top 20 win. So really, really excited about this opportunity. We're going to have to play really well. That's for certain. We're going to have to make some shots. But look, you're in the NCAA tournament. Some people have asked me, how do you feel about your draw being ACC tournament champions and you're the 9 seed? I say, hey, look, when you get to this point of the season, everyone's good. There's no denying it. Everybody's good. Everybody's well coached, and we'll have to be ready to go. And we got a great opportunity in front of us, and we're excited to play and go from there.
Josh Pastner joining us here on 3 and Out. So what do you say to your team on Friday? As far as I know, you might be the only one in the program that's been in the postseason before in the March Madness deal here. What do you say to them before you get started?
Well, look, I mean, obviously this season you're in uncharted territory based on everything with COVID-19 I got to give a great shout out, credit to all the men and women on both the men's side, the women's side, the coaches, the administrators, the medical personnel, the NCAA for all of us to have a season, to have a tournament. It's just been, because it could have easily been the other way. And the credit to the players, for student athletes, for being able to make this happen all across the country. And so, look, we're just going to go in there, and we know that, it's a big time stage. It's a big time environment. It's what everyone grows up watching and playing for to get to this point. These are the playoffs. This is when you're in the NBA, you play to get to the playoffs. When you're in the NFL, you play to get to the playoffs. Same thing in college football. You play to get to the playoffs, and this is our playoffs. We're here. Guys know, they're probably going to be a little nervous. That's just part of the normalcy of being in this part of the season. But I love our group, and if we play the right way and defend like we're capable of defending versus Florida State in the championship game, we forced them into 25 turnovers and 15 steals, which is an ACC tournament championship record. We have that type of intensity defensively and also make some shots, shoot the ball well. I like our chances on Friday night.
And Coach, finally, you mentioned it at the beginning of the interview, just the scene surreal, obviously with what is going on in the world. How does that manifest itself when you're playing a basketball game, not having the fans? Does that affect kind of the ebb and flow of the game, or once you tip off, is it just basketball?
Yeah, look, there's no manual or playbook for this season. There's no manual or playbook. That's the bottom line. So everything was kind of one day at a time. You had to be willing to be flexible. You had to be willing to change. You had to be willing to adjust on the fly. Most coaches, most programs, you believe in routine and habit, and that you can just throw that out the window because there is no routine and habit this year. It's just kind of literally, one day at a time, and things are changing, and that's just kind of how it goes. And it's the only way for it to work itself out because of the virus. And so, it's been different. There's no doubt about it. But all that being said, we are here. There is going to be a tournament. There was an ACC season. There's going to be an NCAA champion crowned on April 5th. And it comes down now to, as we kind of continue to move forward, I really believe next season things will get back to, I don't know if you can ever say it's just going to be the old way. I don't think anything will ever be just the old way, but there will be back to normalcy in a way that, for example, Georgia Tech, we're planning to have full capacity at the football stadium and eventually have full capacity at the basketball games and open up the full season tickets. So I think things will get back to that way, whether you have to still wear a mask or testing or whatever. All those protocols will be, obviously above my pay grade on that, but there will be somewhat normalcy going into the next season, which will be excited and welcome too. But for this year, there's been no season like any other, and this will be an experience that we all can share with everybody because it really has taken a team effort, and not just talking about me and the student athletes and our team, but everybody involved to make it happen. And it's a real team effort, and it's been a real privilege and honor to be part of it.
Josh Pastner, head basketball coach for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, our guest here on 3 and Out. Coach, we appreciate the time really much, really do, and good luck to you guys on Friday against Loyola Chicago. Thanks again.
Thank you. We play on 4 p.m. TBS, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and we got the A crew. We got Jim Nance, Bill Raftery, Grant Hill, Tracy Wilson. So we've got the A crew doing our game. Another great opportunity to really get great recognition, exposure, publicity for Georgia Tech. Let's go try to win the game.
Absolutely. Yeah, Coach Pastner joining us here on 3 and Out. Again, we appreciate it. Thanks much, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Josh Pastner joining us here on 3 and Out. Gave you the date, time, location, all the deets on how you can catch Georgia Tech and Loyola Chicago Friday in the NCAA tournament. We'll come back. We're talking Braves baseball. We're about 2 weeks away from opening day. Jake Mastriani will join us next here on 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live at espncoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. Glad you are with us here on this Wednesday, about 2 weeks away from opening day for the Atlanta Braves and Major League Baseball. Still some questions left there to be answered. And joining us here on the show from Tomahawk Take, Jake Mastriani joins us here on the show. Jake, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Kevin. Thanks so much for having me on again. Appreciate it.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you as standing by there while we chatted with Coach Pastner. But we're here with 2 weeks to go before the season gets started. Where are we at here with this Braves rotation as you see it? Obviously, we know Mike Soroka will be back at some point. Who do you think's got the inside track there to be that number 5 until then?
Yeah, I mean, the Braves really do have some solid options there, most notably between Bryce Wilson and Kyle Wright. If I had to pick somebody today, it would probably be Bryce Wilson, coming off that great start against the Dodgers in the NLCS, and then he's looked really good in spring training. So I think he probably has the edge at this point. But, I mean, really you could go Wilson or Wright, and I think they would feel pretty comfortable with either one of them at this point. It's just kind of the upside that you have with Wilson after how dominant he was in the postseason. You know, if he can bottle that up and be more consistent with it, that's a pretty special pitcher right there.
What is your expectation for when we see Mike Soroka?
To be honest, I think if it were up to him, he'd probably be ready for opening day. He's kind of been, working at that level. But I think it'd be a smarter move for the Braves to kind of, slow play it a little bit and bring him back maybe late April, early May. That's when I think we'll see him, especially with the Braves having those off days early in the season. You get by with a 4-man rotation for about a week and a half there. So I think it's probably, mid to late April before we see Soroka.
Talking with Jake Mastriani of Tomahawk Take here on the show. As you look at the bench situation, how many spots are the Braves sold on right now? How many spots are up for grabs here with basically 2 weeks to go?
Yeah, so there's likely probably two spots up for grabs. You obviously have the backup catcher, who's either going to be Contreras or Alex Jackson at this point. Ender's healthy, and he's back in the lineup now. He's going to be on there. A lot of people seem to just automatically think Camargo's going to be on there, but I think he hired Adrianza, who I've been pretty high on this spring training. I think he can do everything Camargo can do, and he's been a better, more consistent hitter. So I think he's somebody that could surprise and jump on the roster. Jason Kipnis, I think, will probably be there just for his, veteran leadership, and he's picked things up in spring training. So those are your main guys there. It also depends on what kind of roster Brian Snitker wants to go into the season with, because there's no limit on the number of pitchers you can have. So you can carry 14 pitchers, which pretty much limits you to a 4-man bench. But, without the DH this year, National League managers might not do that because your bench is going to come into play more often. So, that's going to be the main thing to watch throughout the rest of the spring training is how that bench fills out. That's the the biggest issue coming into spring training for me. And Jake Lamb's the other one I didn't mention. He's pretty solid on the bench as well. Even though he hadn't had a great spring training, I just think his versatility there to back up Riley and just that big left-handed bat off the bench. I think he's got a pretty solid spot on the bench as well.
You mentioned Riley, Jake. What are your expectations for him?
I'm expecting him to do good things this year. I mean, being a 6 or 7 hole hitter, somebody that, could potentially hit, 250 and 30 home runs. I mean, that's the type of player I'm hoping Riley can be. I mean, you hear good things about him, the 2 or 3 games that the Braves have had on TV in spring training. He's looked pretty good. So, I'm expecting, good things for him, and I'm certainly hoping, but everybody been saying the right things. He's making good adjustments. Even last year you could see him kind of making those adjustments even if the results weren't always there. So this is the kind of year you're hoping that he puts it together and becomes that big power threat in the middle of the order that we all thought he could be. So I'm expecting a good year from him. Again, 240, 250, 25, 30 home runs. I mean, I'll take that.
Jake, how antsy are the Braves about Austin Riley? Is it hey, if this thing is not living up a couple of months in, let's try somebody else there? Or they give him the full season to work it out? Like, where are they with Austin Riley in terms of being an anchor in that lineup and at third base?
Yeah, well, I mean, they signed Jake Lamb, obviously, is to kind of be a fallback option there. You know, they already have Camargo in place. There were rumors that they were, looking at Maikel Franco, who obviously is a third baseman, and he ended up signing with the Orioles. So that there might tell you that they may not, they may be pretty quick to pull the trigger on him at third base. I hope that's not the case. I hope they kind of let him ride it out for a couple of months there and just see the approach that he has and see if he's been able to make those changes. But just some of the depth moves they've made, at that position kind of tell you that, even they are a little skeptical about him going into the season. So again, if he struggles out of the gate first couple of months, would not be surprised to see them, get Lamb some more at bats, maybe get Camargo over there, especially with Lamb being a left-handed hitter. You could kind of platoon him a little bit with Riley. So again, just based on the peripheral moves that they've made, it would tell you that they're not fully committed to Riley at third base.
You look at the lineup, a lot of guys are proven or coming off banner years. Christian Pache has all the accolades, all the hype. Do you think Atlanta is comfortable enough with the lineup to where if he has some early rookie struggles, they're going to let him kind of remain the everyday center fielder?
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Again, with Pache, I wish that they have the opportunity to just let him play and ride it out. He's definitely going to have his struggles. I understand that, but with somebody like that, the talent that he has, just with the defensive ability that he has alone, he's going to be worth having in the everyday lineup, especially with Ozuna in left field and the struggles that he has. It's going to be worth having him in that lineup, batting eighth. But one thing to consider is that the NL East is going to be so competitive that you really can't afford to be patient with a lot of these players, whether hitters or pitchers, just because the division is going to be so tough this year. But I think I honestly feel better about them riding things out with Pache than I do with Riley, because Pache is probably going to struggle a little bit, especially out of the gate at the plate. But I think they'll be, give him a little bit longer leash than even Riley, who's, been in the big leagues for a couple of years now. And they kind of know what they have in him and know what they're hoping for. But I think Pache will get, a pretty good long look there, again, especially because of his defensive ability to kind of help out Ozuna in left field.
Jake Mastriani joining us here from Tomahawk Take. And Jake, you look at the bullpen. Obviously, last year, if you got to the 7th, 8th inning with the lead, it was pretty much over. Do the Braves feel that comfortable with the back end of their bullpen that if you get this thing to 7 1/3, 7 2/3, they can close it down and move on to the next day?
I think so. I think the Braves feel really confident in the bullpen guys, and they better, right? Because they didn't really go out and do much to improve it this offseason. But I think they're expecting Will Smith to have a big bounce back year, as am I. I think, obviously you can throw out 2020 numbers for the most part. Last year, I think Will Smith will come back and, eventually if he doesn't start the season as a closer, he'll work his way into that closer role. Chris Martin's been a solid lockdown guy there in the back end. AJ Minter, Tyler Matzey, both on the left-handed side, were amazing last year. I mean, those are going to be your 4 main key guys, and they're all really good. So I think they feel pretty confident in their bullpen, and I do as well. I know a lot of people are kind of worried about the depth of the bullpen, and that's certainly a concern. But if you look at the top guys there, I think they're going to be really good.
Finally, how do you see this division? Is Atlanta a clear favorite, or when you look at the Nats and the Phillies and even the Mets, is it more wide open than that?
I mean, honestly, try to take the bias out of it. I think the Braves are the clear favorites. You look at what they've done in the starting rotation, and Charlie Morton, I think, is going to be huge in that rotation. I'm not nearly as sold on Drew Smiley. We're going to have to hope that the evaluation that they had on him and what they saw in a small sample last year, is for real and comes to fruition. But, you look at Soroka and Fried and Ian Anderson and Charlie Morton. I mean, those are 4, really good starting pitchers that, I'd put up against anybody. So, I think the Braves are the clear favorite, especially after bringing Ozuna back. It kind of settles in that lineup and the offense. The only thing that scares me with the Braves is the depth, but I think a lot of other teams in the division have that problem as well. So it's going to be a tight race. Don't get me wrong. All the other teams are going to be good. Like I said earlier, I think it's going to be a very competitive division, but I think it's the Braves. You know, I think they are the favorites in my mind at this point.
Jake Mastriani, Tomahawk Take, joining us here on 3 and Out. Jake, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a great night.
Will do. Jake Mastriani talking some Braves baseball with us 2 weeks away, basically from opening day. BJ, as you look at it, to me, that's the key part of this Braves team that he talked about there at the end, the bullpen. Not so much the Matzicks and AJ Minners and guys like that, but is it the Luke Jacksons and the Carl Edwards Jr.'s, guys who are filling that role of, hey, we need you to bridge to the back end. Can you get us there? And I know Luke Jackson's been put in some weird spots. He's been the closer. He's been but those guys often are key to kind of making the whole thing work. Is if you get stuck, hey, this guy can come in and get me 3 outs, get me to the guys I know can lock it down, and you move on.
Well, yeah, you got to have versatility and you got to have guys you can trust. You know, he said something interesting that I wanted to get your opinion on. He said, or he at least hinted at the idea that maybe Johan Camargo doesn't make the roster. Was that a big surprise to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Johan is kind of like a fan favorite. You know me, I've never been super huge on him as an everyday player, but I think as a bench guy, certainly is a good piece to have. Now, if he's being outplayed at spring training, then that's something to consider. But yeah, to me, as soon as you called up Austin Riley, that's the guy you wanted to play third every day. You had a lot invested in him. Certainly had the talent potential. I really thought what you saw from Camargo a couple years ago was kind of peak value on him. And you kind of know what my kind of constant phrase on that. Whenever you see guys that are coming out of the minor leagues and all of a sudden they're having a season they've never had in the history of professional baseball, like it might be time to try to get something out of that. And we haven't seen Camargo come close to doing what he was able to do there a couple of years ago. So, I've never been as big on Johan, so it's not a surprise if he's getting outplayed by another bench piece. You brought in guys specifically to play third base, some guys that can play second base in Kipnis. So where does that leave him? He can play short. I mean, he's not going to play first. That's really a role guy, and if he's getting beat out by another guy that's a role guy, then everything's up on the table in spring training. That's kind of the rules of the gig there. But yeah, I still kind of would be surprised if he didn't make the opening day roster. Just because of the history he's had with the team. But if he does not come out of the gate well, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't pull somebody up and go a different direction. So Braves going to get started 2 weeks from tomorrow, April 1, 2 weeks from tomorrow. They'll be back at it in a little afternoon baseball, getting the 2021 season underway. We've got much more to come here. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on this Wednesday. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, glad you were with us here on the show. A lot more to come still throughout the week. We got some NCAA basketball for you starting tomorrow and certainly into Friday when the tournament en masse gets started. But earlier today, Pro Day there in Athens, BJ, as many Georgia Bulldogs put themselves out there on tape, times, etc., for pro scouts in the area. And Kirby Smart interviewed by Matt Stinchcomb about what he saw there at Pro Day today at Georgia.
For the first time, you almost feel like things are back to normal in terms of a lot of NFL personnel in here watching some great kids work out. So we didn't have this last year, so it's nice now.
And on the heels of the season and an abnormal season at that, what is your role like on Pro Days? Typically, even when these guys are out here, it's an important job interview, but they're not looking to play for you anymore. They're looking to play for somebody else. What role do you play on a Pro Day?
Support, love. Our guys have come here. This is really the first group that we completely recruited and know their families really well. So for me, it's just supporting these guys, letting them know they're doing well, and also spending time with the NFL personnel because we want them to feel at home coming in our facility. I've had several guys come up and say this is the best Pro Day they've been to. It means a lot to us as Georgia welcoming these guys.
So you see some of these guys throughout the day, they'll go run the 40, and they'll check with some of their teammates, but then they come over to you. What is it that you're doing in those moments when they're coming over to see their coach on a day as important as this?
Just being supportive, you know what I mean? Giving them a time, maybe they don't know, you're unsure. You get 240s, and a lot of times guys are like, well, what did I run? And you want to be able to give them that information. You want them to be positive, and if they didn't run as well as they have been, they can make it up in these workouts, position drills.
Mm-hmm. A lot of good players that are going to be trying out here today, showing as good as they possibly can. A lot of defensive guys, and probably the top-rated guy would be Aziz Ogilari. Yeah. What have you seen from him? You've seen him on the rug, but how has he done in your eyes so far here today?
Done really well. I mean, Aziz is a guy that is high character, high athlete, but people questioned what his movement skills were, what his straight line 40 speed was. I think he helped himself tremendously today. Running in the low 4.6s is big time for him.
What about as a space player for him? Knowing that, as a step forward type player, a pass rusher, a run defender, but what about his ability to drop in coverage?
That's something we work on all the time. It's not natural for a great pass rusher to drop, and most pass rushers don't want to hear about dropping, but you spend 3 years here at University of Georgia, you got to practice that sometimes, and these guys love it. So a day like today is going to pay off for him, where he worked on that his whole career while he was here.
So spinning it back to the guys that are at Georgia now, and you've got now one spring practice under your belt, what is it that you're looking to get out of these sessions coming out of what was an abbreviated season due to COVID?
Well, the biggest thing is who we are as a team, trying to create that identity. We got a lot of guys back on offense, a lot of new faces on defense. So for us, it's about creating that identity. The best thing is, where we're young on defense, we get to go against a lot of experience on offense. We'll be well tested by the time spring ends.
Well, Coach, thanks so much. Go out there and support your guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Stinch. Good to see you. Go Dogs.
And that was Kirby Smart talking with Matt Stinchcomb there, and certainly had a number of guys working out. Richard LeCount, as we talked with Brooks Austin there, BJ, a 4.7, 4.8, depending on where you go in the 40. But all in all, pretty impressive outside of a few isolated, events for certain guys.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this about Richard LeCount, who I'm a huge fan of, really enjoyed his career watching him play. When you look back at Georgia and watch Richard on film, does he look small? Does he play small? Does he play slow? No, he dominates. He's all over the field. He's making plays. So I think Ben talks about this, and we can get his perspective on it. But he knows it much better than me. But I think the game tape is the foundation, and then you can get a frame of reference of sorts with some of the non-football drills. Again, very rarely in a football game does anyone, even a wide receiver, run 40 consecutive yards without turning or stopping. Very rarely does anyone, have an extended period of measure of, bench press strength, so to speak, even linemen, because there's movement and you're getting different parts of the body. So I think the measurables are interesting. I think they can offer a frame of reference, but at the end of the day, I'm especially for players that have been successful for 2-3 years in college football's toughest conference. I'm a big believer of what I see on film.
And that was there today in Athens at the Pro Day. We've got more to come, 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin and BJ here with you. And again, thanks to Jake Mastriani for joining us. Josh Pastner, Georgia Tech head basketball coach, Brooks Austin of Dogs Daily on SI, and Robbie Weinstein, 247 Sports, joining us here on 3 and Out this afternoon. And again, don't forget, sign up for our bracket challenge presented by Low Country Honda Dealers. Go to ESPN.com, get in the bracket challenge, look for ESPN Coastal Challenge, put your bracket in against ours. And if you're number one, you can win a 55-inch flat screen or a Budweiser grill for second place. So put your brackets in. You still have some time. Go to our social media. You can find the link there as well. And put your bracket in, play against us. And you might be the big winner of the challenge. BJ is the first 4 tomorrow.
My picks are in, baby. I'm good to go.
Yeah, I got my bracket in as well, and maybe I'll change it depending on who gets in the last 4. Once we get to the real tournament again, pick them in the main bracket. You're not in yet, so we'll get to that debate tomorrow on the show with West Durham. Chrissy Freud going to join us tomorrow on 3 and Out. Look forward to seeing you then. If you missed any of the show, hit up our YouTube page, ESPNCoastal.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts to get a podcasted version of the show. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.